Okay, I got a song, and I'm going to just do a little of it and use it as a introduction. It's very simple. Your love for all life. Your love for all life. How sweet it is, sweet, sweet it is, sweet it is, sweet it is. You are sweet it is. Your love for all life. So I had a experience, let's say, where I was looking, and inwardly or outwardly, whatever, it was a vision or something of the real side, or the true real universe. Universe is, or universe is. Just very simple. It's there. It's kind of like looking at the horizon at a distance, or so to speak, and just it being there. And so I was partially thinking of that because of some of the experiences of recent time, including writing this song yesterday, which was a simple thing. I just went to this restaurant that has an outdoor screened-in porch room, and I brought my electric guitar and amplifier, and when I play in there, there's no one sitting in that room mostly. The restaurant is not very busy anyway, and which is a reflection partially of the entire community that's practically disappeared. And there's very little activity other than people going to the store to get food and that kind of thing. Most of the business is very minor, etc. So I was in the room, and this young man who is a person I've seen before, because at one karaoke night they had there, he was there and he sings. Now he's got a cleft hand. His name is Ryan, and he's various other, let's say, some form of disability when he walks, and he's, autistic, something or other. And but he came in because he heard me playing, even though I have to say that it's really turned up loud, and they say they can't hear me in the other rooms. There's a bar room and a restaurant room on the other side of the wall, and they can't hear me. They have music that plays through the speakers, so I play along with it sometimes. I asked him to turn it down this time so that I could record something, because what happened was this young man, he comes in and he says, well, I know this song and I know that song. And they're country, modern country mostly. But he doesn't really remember them that well, that he can just, I said, could you sing some? But he doesn't really remember the lyrics, off the top of his head, and so forth. So then I said at the end, I can write a song like right now, and it's real easy, and we can just, and while he's sitting there kind of talking or telling me some, I know this song also, and whatever, you know, people go on like that. And I got these words from my song, and or vocalization of the melody, like, you are love for all life, how sweet it is, and you are who you are. You know, simple, really nice. And then I recorded it on the phone while he was there, and then he's a dishwasher, I think, at the restaurant sometimes. And so this is a disabled type person that he was talking to me also about how he's been abused and talked at, bullied, you know, because of his hand and whatever. Okay, so this is a person that, to some extent, they're able to listen somewhat to this and at least have a sense of it, and or they're helpful in producing those vibrations. And I think that it's very much different from what's gone on and what is going on constantly with the human, social, cultural, whatever. And that was directly experienced. I even shared the song with the waitress, and I said, this is really nice, and I'm going to send it to his phone. Can I get his phone number? And he'll send it to him if he wants. He's standing there, you know, says yes, and but he can't remember his phone number, so we go through that. But the thing is that the regular so-called people aren't paying any attention, really. And there's no spiritual relation that's being acknowledged, except for maybe every so, oh yeah, that has that gospel-y thing or something, you know, so they're relating it to that. And some people say they only listen to gospel music, and some people say that they, you know, it's different, that they recognize the difference, but they also, you know, that's what they listen to is this modern stuff, whatever, rap country, mostly taken over. Doesn't matter. But except for the experience of being able to communicate this is so limited. And I'm starkly experiencing it, let's say, very grossly, at the same time that there's this beautifulness. And okay, so I had a thought about this a program, I'll call it, agenda, system, hypnotism, and indoctrinated obfuscation, dilemma, if you will. And what happened in the restaurant also was a man came in, or at the beginning, while I was getting ready, and I asked him while we were standing there, because he's waiting to seat, and he's more like my age. And I said, well, have you noticed how, I forgot the terms I used. I said something about how everything is all kind of messed up. And he said, well, yeah. And it's been going on. I said something about about a dumbed down type thing. And he said, it's been going on for 50 years. And it's getting worse. And there he is with his phone. And when I went back to talk with him later while he was sitting down, I said, well, you know, I wondered if you wanted to talk. He's on his phone, he's reading his messages and stuff like that. And he had no interest in talking. I said, okay, You know, I'm not the most uninteresting person here. Didn't faze him at all. It wasn't like I was hardly even there. And that's the experience in the dead zone, if you want to call it that, because holy moly, really serious. And I was thinking today was another day where I have the certain positions of, see, I've become the only universal solarist galactician, is what I call it, which is like a top end astrologer, if someone needs a reference like that, but it's not. In any case, my point of view about it is that I'm trying to communicate about references there, and the universal reference and the solar reference, which I think is, as an example, was it Val or DUANE or Ava today mentioned it about being like the sun shining, and or the sun seer, which funny is that word is also sincere, and I've been getting this language trade turnover. I don't know what to call it. I'm getting all kinds of different ways to say words and to see within the words spelling and sound phrase syllables, and I'm seeing through all of them or with them as a reference to, you know, and all kinds of things like sincere and sincere, and a huge, it's almost like an AI dictionary. But I have gotten this idea, I call it an IA, which is a couple of things: intellectual architectures or intuitional awareness, or intuitional senses, you know, etc. That reference there, because it is of a wholly different thing from the logical reference, the literal, the specific, the physical. And even if the word physic is supposed to be a scientific word, in a way, it's also a word that goes beyond that to science, or you could spell it PSIENCE, which is science, which is, I guess, psi meaning using your awareness in the so-called psychic level. But let's jump past that and just say that's an old reference too. And so I'm referencing this related to what's happened over the centuries and millenniums, but in particular, let's say the last every 30 years since the United States began. Now we're in the 250th year almost, and 240 is a 30, so that was 10 years ago. And that is all of those 30-year periods are kind of like milestones where the agenda of whatever is being directed or corrected, or whatever terms for the cyclic events that have occurred, wars, and as an example, 90 years ago, was it, where Civil War was leading up to the 60s. Now we have 50 years after that, maybe another 10 years or so. And there's something to do with that 2030s, where whatever culmination of the past 30 years before that, of events that have a lot to do with the AI and that whole conditioning activity, and or, yes, the choice, I'd say, of direction of humanity, and either I would say kind of a degradation or the possibility that, I'm going to say it this way, I've been getting a lot of threes, sets of threes, and one of them is the reptilian, alien, and human, which is kind of a hybrid composition. I think maybe we went through each one of those, or we have been going through them concurrently. That's another way to look at it. We have the reptilian side and the alien side and the human, or is a hybrid of those two, whatever. And the point isn't so much about these definitions, but that I think that we are what I call solarians. That is solar beings. And our next stage is to become NuManity. That's the word I'm using. And that is using the IA, intuitional awareness, and all that's available naturally and universally, and I'll call it solaristically, you know, of those elements of nature and the sun and the life in the world. And being aware of these things all as we are, that is to at least become aware and have an actual reference that humans are more than human, that we are more than humans, rather. So that's how I was thinking of it the last 30 years. And let's go back to the beginning of the United States, which, by the way, half the population probably doesn't even know what year the United States was started, or that there was a 7-year war that ended in 7 years after the country's independence, which actually established its so-called sovereignty. Well, all it was really establishing was its orientation with that whole agenda of civilized culture and so-called civilized. And we can still see naturally all of these effects that have occurred. I think 1776 was the beginning, and then 1966 was the Civil War, which was the intermediate point between now and then, more or less. Not exactly, but also there's another one with the immigration period and the science period that was in the 1800s, and then at the end, 1900, major date. And so then we get to 2000, and we now have our worldly context, finally, a global context that's being accepted and or at least identified. Now, whether they're doing this in the spiritual sense is a big question, and the religious so-called sense too. Even they are not grasping their unification with, let's say, that all the religions are. And instead, it's all the separate disunity, mostly. But, you know, it's like 2 parts or 3 parts of, I don't know, I guess you could say like a magnet has its plus and minus poles, and the electromagnetism keeps it together, or is kept together. And so, yeah, it's like not disunified and disorganized or disassociated. It's just that the point of view is rudimentary instead of universally, if I can use those terms. So that's why there's almost zero attention here with us, and on the other side there is still a huge amount of agreement with it. However, let's see what happens. It's always open for next stage. I think that one person who kind of distanced from me after I gave discussion with her and shared and very open and all, to her benefit. And then, but I see that I saw that something of, let's say, the not good is probably headed her way, and or a force of some form of change, which is not being accepted. However, it doesn't mean that force changed, but what I'm seeing is that at least for maybe the next 3, 6 months, 9 months, there's going to be opportunity for this new, except for the fact that the old guard is holding on completely and degrading and or presenting something that they claim that is within their positive and to the good, and we should just have faith and go along with it and all of that kind of stuff, which is as my brother said to me. He said, just have faith, give him a chance, like that, and we don't have any choice whether to give him a chance or not. They were implementing a program whether we had any agreement or not. But I will say what did happen also yesterday was on my way home, there was a guy who has a greenhousey kind of building. I've been wanting to see him for a long time. He's never been there. All these storms came through, there are trees down everywhere, etc., and he's not been out there or at home. But yesterday he was, and he grows lettuce and other things in there. And I went over and so you're the lettuce guy. I've been looking for you. And we had a really good talk. I told him about the Green Power Lodge and other kinds of gardening and so forth that we shared, about growing this really sweet grape for wine. And now this is the positive movement. And he gave me, I bought 2 different kinds of lettuce, and he gave me a 3rd bag as well. And so 3 different kinds, and just beautiful, beautiful lettuce. I haven't seen any lettuce here for like 20 years like that. Beautiful, organic, no spray, nothing. Great, sweet tasting. Wow. And so that was like, how cool, Okay, well, sing a song and then come back home and see a nice door open there that hadn't been available before. And we've also got some orange trees growing, and the bird feeder that we just set up is being used by the birds, which hadn't happened for quite some time. So I wonder, what's, the seeds, planting seeds like that. That's the idea. Thanks, Val. You got it.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.